right, we are going to get started. Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello. My name is Niels Ribeiro Yamofio. Excited to chat with you all this evening. I am a nonprofit leader and a big one for well over 18 years, and I'm also the founder of V2R. V2R is a community and resource hub for social impact and nonprofit leaders. And this is our webinar series. Our webinar series is all about having real conversations about everyday challenges leaders like you face. And tonight we're going to be talking about partnerships. Partnerships 101, how to build partnerships that actually deliver results. So excited to chat with you all about this. I'm sure if you've been a nonprofit leader or about to be a nonprofit leader, have been a nonprofit leader for multiple years, I'm sure partnerships either have you get excited or concerned. Well, don't fret. We're going to talk all about that. Just some housekeeping for tonight. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. After the presentation, the quick presentation, we'll have time to do Q&A. So please keep your questions in mind, and we will get started. So let me share my screen so you all can see the presentation. All right, here we go. Partnerships 101. So you might be wondering, why are we talking about partnerships? Well, partnerships are really cool. Partnerships, they can be some of the best things that happen to your organization. They could be, unfortunately, some of the most annoying things that happen to your organization. Um, but they really do deliver results and deliver it well. So why do partnerships matter? I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of reasons why partnerships matter. Partnerships have the ability to spur your growth. They can maximize your impact. They can help you work even faster towards your strategic plan. They can help fill in the gaps that, whether if you had more time or more money, like actually having a partnerships can help fill that gap faster and better and cheaper than anything else. So partnerships can be really cool. The other thing is, funders love partnerships. They love the idea of social impact organizations collaborating and leading to bigger impact. And they even love providing a grant where they give money and two organizations are working together. They feel like that they're getting a bigger bang out of their buck by investing in an organization, in a project, in a partnership, and watching those two organizations thrive and lead to big impact for their stakeholders. There's a lot of reasons partnerships are good, but partnerships are just like any other relationships. They can be amazing and they can be tough, right? If one partnership is stellar, it doesn't necessarily mean the next partnership is going to be great. They all come with their own sets of challenges. So partnerships, in case you're wondering how we're going to talk about partnerships for the rest of this presentation, just think about it like a relationship. And I promise you, it will help you better understand how to think about partnerships, and better yet, how to set up successful and strong partnerships. So the goal tonight is what frameworks can you utilize to build partnerships intentionally versus reactively having a partnership and trying to fix it because some expectations weren't met. So that's what we're going to cover and discuss tonight. The first thing to do is to find the right partner, right? Is that if some of you who are in the have been or currently are in the courting stage of relationships, you're probably very annoyed at this concept. But here we are. You can still utilize those same skills in your nonprofit work and your social impact work. Um, Here's some things that I strongly suggest you consider when thinking about the right partner: alignment, capacity, and reputation. Alignment. Do you serve the same populations with this nonprofit partner? Are you all working towards the same goal? Do your values and cultures complement each other? It could be really tough if you all don't believe in the same things and yet you're supposed to partner with each other. There's some situations where it makes sense, but there's a lot of situations where it doesn't make sense. So it's really good for you all to get a chance to talk about that. And is there a mutual benefit? Is one partner getting a lot out of this versus another partner? And if that's the case, please know that one partner is going to be a lot more motivated to see this partnership work and go well versus the other if only one partner is getting something out of it. So check for alignment. And then there's capacity. Are they reliable? Will they get the job done? Do they have the capacity to take on more work? Unfortunately, the start of partnerships is just a lot of talking versus actually doing a lot of work. And so once the work starts, they may not necessarily have the capacity to take on a partnership like this. So it's a really important question to see and to ask. Are they resourced enough to actually take on this additional capacity? Are they able to be a reliable partner? In case you're wondering, that's the one I struggle with the most. I actually have a story to tell you all that correlates to the capacity one. And then last but not least is reputation. How do they show up in the community? If you are going to go to your stakeholders and share with them, hey, we're about to partner with organization X, and their immediate reaction is ill or oh no or yuck, that might tell you how they think about that partnership. And they may judge why an organization like yours is partnering with an organization like them. Yes, it does matter. You are a trusted entity for your stakeholders. So all of a sudden, if you're working with organizations that they do not trust, you better have a good reason why, and you better be able to explain it to your stakeholders because they will easily be like, you do not have a good sense of judgment, and I cannot trust you anymore to be someone who can support me and my family or whatever the stakeholders are that you're working with. So, yes, reputation absolutely does matter, and you have to be able to communicate why you're deciding to partner with an organization that is trustworthy or isn't trustworthy with your stakeholders. So I promised you all a story. Here is a quick story. In case you're wondering, I am a romantic. I think of all the cool ways a partnership can work versus actually thinking about the capacity of a partnership work. I just see the best in the organizations that I want to partner with. I just think all the things are going to be awesome. And oftentimes I set up a partnership and leave it to my team to actually make it work. So I've learned a little bit here, but here's a particular example. Back when I worked for a program, I was about to establish a partnership with a mental health service provider that could support college students who were having a tough time. I thought I was a genius and a star getting this partnership together. The problem was the company usually worked with 50-year-olds who were facing employment issues. I know what you're thinking. It's like, okay, those are some challenges that there's some similar challenges from college students. So what's the problem? Well, how you work with 50-year-olds is very different than how you'd work with a college student, a current traditional college students. And it showed up. When the partnership started, we could tell really quick and early that our students weren't feeling it and that the mental health supporters weren't feeling it either. And the organization was not willing to accommodate. So the partnership didn't work because our students' needs weren't being met and they were not willing to make the changes to meet those needs. So that is an example of maybe we should start asking the capacity question well before we actually start the partnership. So, alignment, capacity, reputation. Once you get through that, we have an even more robust checklist that I suggest that you all go through. So, here's an example of a checklist that I've put together from my years of experience working in nonprofits. My suggestion is start off with a checklist like this, and then even add more questions or change these questions so you're actually truly getting to the things that you need to get to. So this checklist that I have here asks these questions. How long will this partnership last? Sometimes it should only last 3 months. Sometimes it should last 3 years. You should get a chance to talk about that before you get started. Who are the key points of contact on each side? Typically, the people who are starting the partnership are the leaders, but the folks who are actually maintaining these partnerships are somebody else. What is the delegation of work and who owns it? So their hearts and minds are clear on who is doing what. How will we hold each other accountable to hit our goals? Any kind of relationship, it's all about accountability. And so you want to put it out there before times is tough and you really actually got to talk about accountability. What does success look like in 30 days, in 60 days, and in 90 days? So you all can just have a good sense of what actually you want to see this partnership to turn into. How will we communicate? How often and through what channels? And what happens if the partnership isn't working? Isn't that a lovely list? Don't you want to take that and use that for people that you potentially want to have a relationship with? Well, thank you. Awesome. If you want to do that for folks that you're going to have a relationship with, why wouldn't you want to do that with folks that you want to partner with in your social impact venture that may affect a number of lives that are just looking to you for support and for help? If it can work for you personally, you should absolutely use it professionally. So this is the a basic list that you should use, and I think it's important to say even if you go through this, the partnership may not work still, and that's fine. Some partnerships, it may take one or two partnerships before you find the great partnership. Not every partnership you're going to have is going to be perfect, but at least you can proactively start to think about what things need to make sense and need to exist before you can move forward and actually set up this partnership. So first we did the alignment, then we did these questions, and now it's time to make it official. And when you make it official, I strongly suggest you put it on paper. And that means making a memorandum of understanding, or what everyone calls an MOU. The entire purpose of an MOU is to treat it as a communication tool. Yes, in some degrees, it could be a legal, a governing form, but I really call it a communication tool. It forces both parties to get specific before problems arise. This is going to be the thing that really structures and maintains this relationship, because yes, you talked about all the things that you want the partnership to be. Yes, you went through the checklist, but have it on paper because you might need to refer to it from time to time. There's different ways to make an MOU. This is what I'm suggesting here. In the typical template MOUs that I utilize and that I share with my clients, all have these things in here. And so I'll share a little bit about each of these components and why I include them in there. So first is purpose and background. That kind of makes sense. What is the partnership trying to accomplish? A little brief explanation of what both organizations do. Then there's the scope. What are we actually working on? What is this partnership actually working on? And what are we trying to deliver on? Roles and responsibilities, who does what? Data sharing and confidentiality. So you're probably going to be utilizing some sense of data. It might behoove you all to share that kind of data so you can better report out on the impact that you've done. But there's also some pieces of data that should be kept confidential. So in the MOU, you'll be able to list out what data should be confidential and what shouldn't be. And then, of course, there's your stakeholders, there's your clients. What is their experience like within this partnership? This is the space where you can actually talk about it so it can really set it up for your clients, your stakeholders, the families, the communities that you support to get a great experience from this partnership versus not. Reporting, how often are you all meeting? What are you all talking about? What how frequently is it going to happen? Those are like the things that you'll talk about in the reporting and communication section. Term, so that is how long is this going to go for? When does it start and when does it end? Is it an opportunity to renew this partnership? That's where you can put in term. And then something that you may want to add, it doesn't have to be in there, but it might behoove you to put it in there depending on the kind of partnership, is non-exclusivity or exclusivity. If you partner with me, that means you cannot partner with said organization. That's a competitor. Some situations it makes sense, some situations it doesn't make sense, but it's important for you to consider that option as a whole. I have another story that I will refer to for MOUs because you might be like, yeah, if I'm a good leader and I'm working with someone who's a good leader, why do we need to have something like this for our partnership? Or, we're thinking about dominance culture and how, the sacred of the written word and the power of the written word, and we're trying to dismantle that. So you're disgusted by me fixating on an MOU. I hear you. I hear you. But this is a communication tool. All right. This is an accountability tool to make partnerships stronger. Nothing more, nothing less. And I'll give you an example. So back in the day, I was working with a partner and it started off really well. They liked us, we liked them, and we have been working unofficially together for years before we actually set up an official partnership. And to tie it in a bow, a funder was giving us a lot of money so we could work officially together. And there were some real stakes with this grant that this funder gave for us to partner together. So that was the origin of the partnerships. Year 1 and 2 were great. Uh, then there was a leadership change going into year 3. And so I just named how it was sunshine and rainbows for the first part. There was a leadership change. And next thing you know, reports weren't being shared, meetings were being missed, and it felt like pulling teeth to move the work forward. When I eventually sat down with the new CEO, I pulled out the MOU and we went over all the things that were within the MOU that was signed by the organization. And we said what they needed to do for us and what would happen if they did not do what we needed them to do. And so the story does have a happy ending. Believe it or not, the leader actually listened and made sure the organization did all the things that we need to do in the MOU. And then after that year, based off of the MOU, they decided to terminate the partnership because they felt like they did not have the capacity to do that partnership anymore. And I consider that a happy ending because expectations were set, there was clarity, and we followed what we discussed within the MOU to a T. So when it was time to terminate the partnership, it was completely understood and there was no harm, no foul. The funders were cool with it. Each organizations were cool with it. And we made it a point to not have our clients, our stakeholders feel any kind of impact with a dissolved partnership. And that's what I consider a success. Now imagine what that would have been like if there wasn't an MOU. Probably a lot of arguing, a lot of emails, a lot of texts and phone calls, and people being really, really salty. So we avoided all of that because we had an MOU. So as a recap, first, vet with intentionality. Look at the alignment. Look at the capacity. Look at the reputation of the organizations that you want to partner with. Then utilize a checklist. You can use the one that I shared with you earlier as an example. Look at the checklist, look through the checklist, ask those questions, make sure it makes sense to actually partner with this person. And then last but not least, put it on a piece of paper. Make sure there's mutual value and alignment, and then put it on a piece of paper. Create an MOU and then sign it so you have a governing document that you can both look at and refer to make sure the partnership can continue to last and be strong. Alrighty, y'all. So before we turn it over for questions, just want to name a few things. One, we will share a recap video from this presentation in a few days. So be on the lookout for an email for the recap video. And then if you enjoyed this conversations and conversations like this, we actually have a community called Vision Builders where we do have conversations just like this to make it easier for you to do the work that you do as a nonprofit leader. So I invite you to look at our website, www.v2r.me, to hear more. And if you have any questions, that's my email right there, niels@v2r.me. Feel free to reach out. And then myself or a member of my team will get back in contact with you. And with that, it is now time for questions. So I will stop sharing and I'll see what questions we have. All right. So the first question we have is, what's the longest standing partnership that you have had currently or previously, and what components contributed to that success? That is a great question. I think what I should probably name beforehand is there is a difference between a partnership and like a vendor. So some of you all might be thinking like, oh, well, I've been partnered with my HVAC company for 32 years. It's a little different. That is, you're a customer, right? Like that is it. While it is a partnership, that's a different kind of partnership. Like there is contracts, there is a pay exchange, and it's a little different than what we're talking about in the world of social impact, where two nonprofit organizations, social impact organizations, are partnering with each other to lead to bigger and better impact. An example that I have there was a school that I worked alongside with that had partnered with an after school program. I kid you not, for over 15 years. It was an unofficial partnership, and then certain years they decided it makes sense to be an official partnership where they had MOUs and it was great. And I would say the number one reason that it worked so well is that it was mutually beneficial and the community probably spurred that relationship to happen. The students from the school naturally went to the after school program. It was a block away. You would just see a surge of students go from the school to that program. And it was to a point where the parents would literally just stand at the corner and watch their kid and just wave at them and say, "Hey, make sure you go to that program." And so like throughout the years, it eventually you had teachers walk the student from the schools to there. Then you would notice that some of the teachers were, when they were done, they would serve as tutors at the after school program. So they're going there and then they're working there. And then all of a sudden, some of the other tutors were being hired at the school. It was such an amazing and beautiful partnership that like it only makes sense for them to make it official. So some of the ways it was official is when the school would have extra funding for, let's say, a field day or after school food, they would work with the after school program to figure out how they can get those resources as well. It's like, oh, we have extra sport equipment. Here you go. Oh, we have extra books. Here you go. Oh, we have non-perishable snacks. If it aligns with the process that they do for the after school program, here you go. And it's a partnership that still goes on to this day. So that's an example of a really strong partnership. And it made too much sense to not make sense. And there was so much value alignment. And it was led by the stakeholders for both organizations. All right, we got one other question. What if I am an introvert and typically don't feel comfortable reaching out to start partnerships? That is a great question. No shade being an introvert. Let me tell you right now, if you work in the world of social impact, you are working alongside a bunch of introverts. Just because you don't like talking to people doesn't mean you don't like people. And you don't want what's best for people. Um, I do think a lot of the tools that we talked about today will help you with that. First, the first question is, why do you want to partner with someone in general? If you don't feel like your organization needs any partners in the current moment, then that answers your question. Don't worry about setting up a partnership right now. Oftentimes, usually when a nonprofit organization is partnering with another one, it's because it just makes too much sense not to. You're in the same circles, you're doing similar things, or a funder is bringing you all together to have conversations. Now, whether you're an introvert or not, if you are a social impact leader, you need to be out there meeting with people who do similar work as you. It will only lead to better success for your organization and for the communities and the stakeholders you work with. So you should just do some general networking, and it's as simple as sending an email saying, "Hey, I heard your name from this person. I figured we should meet. Set up a 15-minute call, get a chance to know them, and go from there." Now, at some point, it may just make sense. You do X, this organization does Y. It just makes sense to do partnership Z. And so from there, when you start to get into that space, I strongly suggest you go through everything we just talked about this evening. That will help you out a lot to see, one, does it actually really make sense for you all to be an organization? How do you all make it work? And then how do you make it official and make an MOU that you all can sign and hold each other accountable to? So that's my suggestion. Sometimes you just gotta do hard things. And so the hard thing is just going out there and getting a chance to talk with folks. And then from there, it will just, I promise you, it'll just make sense. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, well, you need help with this. I need help with that. Let's work together and we can support each other. And then you're realizing that you're in the start of a partnership. So, alrighty. Those are all the questions we have. You all take care. Talk to you all next time.